What's up, all my movie-loving maniacs? This is your boy Bankful B, and welcome to the 2024 Lassiter Halloween movie review special. And this year, I'm gonna kick it off with one of my favorite horror icons of all time, and that is Freddy Krueger. Yes, he is one of my favorite horror icons of all time. Chucky has a close second, but Freddy will always be number one. And since this year is the 40th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street, what better way to kick off the Lassiter movie review special with this movie? Granted, technically the movie came out in November, but hey, it's October. It's the month of Halloween. This is a better time to watch it anyway, so. But enough of me rambling, let's review. A Nightmare on Elm Street came out in 1994 and it was directed by the late Wes Craven, rest in peace. It is about these group of teenagers that either get haunted and or killed in their dreams by a mysterious urban legend known as Freddy Krueger. One of these teenagers, named Nancy, she figures out how to defeat Freddy and also finds out the horrifying origin of him. Now, to give you some context to my history with the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Freddy vs. Jason, which came out in 2003, was really my first introduction to this character. I remember last Halloween, I did a review of that movie for its anniversary. Check it out. And while I like both Freddy and Jason equally for different reasons, I always gravitated more so towards Freddy because this motherfucker can kill you in your dreams. That is terrifying in itself. Because sleep is something you have to do. And some creepy burnt man with a hat and claws on his glove coming in out of nowhere, scaring you, haunting you, and eventually killing you. That's something serious right there. But what also made me gravitate towards Freddy more is Freddy's just more entertaining. He has more personality. Freddy was just more entertaining to watch. So back in the day when I watched Freddy vs. Jason from the first time, naturally, of course, I went back and found and watched all of the Friday the 13th movies and the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But this whole franchise started with A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is an 80s classic in itself. It's an 80s horror classic in itself. It is a Wes Craven classic, and I absolutely love this movie. Granted, I don't think it's perfect, but it's up there. To me, this movie was the blueprint for the Freddy character. Wes Craven really did the homework to make this character scary, and of course his way of filmmaking also lends itself to this film, which also made it an 80s classic, and how Wes Craven became beloved among horror fans. But the most important ingredient as to how this movie worked was Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger. He was so committed to this character, he knew exactly what to do for this assignment. He was the right amount of scary, but also the right amount of comedic, and this is even the point in the series where don't even go into comedic territory yet. It just struck the right balance. And what also makes Freddy Krueger such an interesting character is his origin, because he was a child murderer. Eventually he got caught, but of course the law is gonna law and not always bring justice, and so all the parents of these kids eventually took matters into their own hands and killed and burned Freddy Krueger alive. And then somehow Freddy Krueger came back to life and started killing kids in their dreams. Now, like I said, this is an 80s classic, and the special effects within this movie is great. From the scene where the first girl, she's getting killed and she just starts going up the wall and then eventually on the ceiling. I think I have an idea of how that was done, but it was just impressive by 80s standards. The scene where Freddy, he's coming out of nowhere and his arms just stretch out. But granted, there are some special effects that don't hold up and are very noticeable, like at the very end where Freddy is coming for Nancy's mom. He pulls her through the window and then she's real for 1 sec, but then the next shot, it is clearly a dummy. And I kid you not, the other night when I rewatched this movie, that scene in particular, I fast forward in slow-mo, and yeah, I can see that dummy very, very clear. And honestly, I think it's really just the ending that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth about this movie. That's probably the biggest thing I didn't like about this movie. When Nancy, you know what, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. There's Nancy, the main girl, played by Heather Langenkamp, When I think of Scream Queens, I think of Jamie Lee Curtis from the Halloween movies, Neve Campbell from the Scream movies, and then there's Heather Langenkamp from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Granted, she was only in 3 of them, at least to my knowledge, but she has truly cemented herself as a Scream Queen because she's the one that figures out how to defeat Freddy. And I just love that scene at the very end where she knows she's still dreaming and then Freddy's coming for her and then she just stands up to him just calm and collected, like, I'm not afraid of you anymore, I'm not gonna give you any more energy. And then she just walks away and then Freddy comes for her and then he just evaporates again. Special effect that don't really hold up anymore. Then the next day she's with her mother, and her mother's a complex character in itself because her parents are divorced and her mother, she keeps getting drunk and going out with men, but then she's the one that reveals the origin of Freddy. So you also kind of have to wonder, since she was involved in the killing of Freddy, is that the reason why she's drinking? Because she's trying to drink her sorrows away and drink away the guilt that she feels? I don't know, it's just something that I kind of thought about, that's all. But of course, Nancy is with all her friends again, to which, yeah, I knew this was all a dream because all her friends at that point got killed. And then the car turns into Freddy. We see the black and red sweater on the car. They drive away, and then that's when what happens to her mother happens that I spoke of earlier. Other than that, there's her father, and then there's the rest of the kids, and one of the kids is Johnny Depp, which I gotta mention, and he had one of my favorite kills within this movie where he just gets sucked into the bed while listening to his little boombox. Man, in the 80s, listening to a boombox was a whole vibe in itself. But anyways, he gets sucked into the bed, and then next thing you know, the blood comes out. That has always stood out in my mind to me. There's a lot in this movie that I like and admired, aside from some special effects that don't really hold up. This was a great introduction in first movie for an amazing horror icon played by a great actor that completely understood the assignment. It is an 80s horror classic, and even though it's not my favorite within the Freddy franchise, hell, I don't even think it's the most refined Freddy movie, but I will always have a spot in my heart for this original film. I am going to give A Nightmare on Elm Street 1984 the heart eyes emoji. Thank y'all so much for watching, and have you seen A Nightmare on Elm Street? If so, how do you feel about the movie? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let me know in the comments section below. And be on the lookout for more reviews for the Lassiter Factor Halloween special. This your boy Bankful B of the Lassiter Factor. Stay safe, wash your hands, and until next time,
Seven, 8, gonna stay up late. 9,